Welcome to video 4 of the 5-video series on personal well-being for managers being developed for TaAF by Renair Wellbeing. And I'm Nimet Renair. I'm a leadership and organizational coach, consultant and trainer, and I work with Renair Wellbeing. So it's a great pleasure to be doing video 4 for you, and just a little reminder that in video 3, we spoke a lot about the relationship with ourselves and our body and our feelings, and beginning to be aware of what's happening to us and beginning to learn to manage what we notice in a way of supporting ourselves. This isn't always easy. I know it took me a long time personally to actually get to a point where the fact that I could have a relationship with myself and therefore make choices for my own well-being was a very, very novel concept. And how to do it started by beginning to pay attention to my body and really beginning to think about my body as a partner, that I needed to work with my body in order for me to get through life well. And my body wanted to serve me, but it needed for me to also care for it. So you start to have a relationship with yourself very much like you would a best friend. And so in today's video 4, it's supporting well-being choices through emotional intelligence. It's building on the introduction I gave you on emotional intelligence in video 3. And we're going to focus a lot more now on the notion of being present, which is the bridge really between self-awareness and self-management as you begin to start connecting with those around you in your life. And I want to start with a story that I shared with your colleagues and often share in the workshops that I offer, which is something that happened well over 32 years ago when my eldest son was only 4 years old. And I remember coming back from work, and my husband had started bath time, and I went into the bathroom and took over from him. And my son was in this bubble bath, playing and in his own world with his whatever little toys were in the bathtub. And I sat down on the stool next to the bathtub, and of course was in my own inner world also. But something happened. I believe it was a grace that stopped me in my tracks. And I had the experience of a camera lens, those the manual camera lenses coming into focus. Everything slowed down and his face came into focus. And I noticed his eyelashes were wet and he had bubble bath on parts of his body. I could hear the water as he was splashing in it. And what struck me in that moment was that I had been with him for days and days, done bedtime, got him ready in the morning, maybe done his lunchbox for playgroup, whatever it was. But I had not been focused. I had always been either in the past or in the future in my head, although my body was apparently with him, but I was not. And the reason I share this is every time I share it, I will get feedback from people to say that was a moment of resonance, because all of us through our days often dip in and out of being aware. And my invitation to all of us is to, when we're with other people, is to help with our checking in, how am I? So how's my body, how's my feeling? But then noticing there's someone else or your team or others, and how can you bring them into focus in this moment? Because it's in that moment that you will pick up how they are, if your camera lens is focused and you yourself have brought yourself to resilience or to that place of balance. And even if you haven't been able to bring yourself into balance, you can at least be aware of how you are in that moment in that team, so that you can at least manage the choices of how you want to behave. Feeling may not change, but you have some sense of what you want to do, knowing how you're feeling in that moment. Okay. Lack of awareness means that we become what I call that leaky bucket, or the beach ball that bounces way out of proportion up because we haven't managed it. Okay, not control, not suppression, management. Management for me is having a choice. Right, you're choosing how to manage this moment because you have more information. So being present, for me, it's very practical a thing, which is looking at someone, bringing them into focus. And if you're not ready to look at people in that way, I'm not suggesting you stare, but practice bringing, like at the moment, I'm looking around my room and there is a comfortable chair. So if I brought the chair into focus, I suddenly feel a change in my body. I feel more present. I feel more solid. I become more aware that of what I'm feeling as I'm doing this video. And if someone else was here, they may become more, in a way, brighter and more present too. Now, why is that important? So before I come to that, I do want to show you my slide on presence, right? Because this is how we begin to manage relationships with ourselves and with others. So presence, notice, bringing into focus. But now as you bring things into focus, as I shared with you, as you're checking in on how you're feeling, one of the other things we can do, the feelings come up, but we also can introduce feelings. So in my younger married life, I've been married coming up to 40 years now, but in our early days, when we were figuring out how to have healthy conflicts or disagreements, we would be in the middle of, and then the phone would ring. At that time, it was pre-mobile phones. One of us would go and pick it up, and suddenly we were able to be very civil and a totally different person within seconds, shifting. So I don't know if any of you relate to that, but I reflected on that and thought, if I have the ability to come out of one state and go into another, I just chose to be that different in that moment. Now, that means we can also cultivate um, positive emotions. That doesn't mean you're suppressing or negating or denying the one that you experienced, but just to let you know that you can also influence what it feels like on the inside. And it takes practice. It's like building a muscle. So if you're not used to, with that negativity bias slide I showed you, and I think it was video 2, where the spotlight, if you're not used to gratitude or noticing what else you have that can actually bring up a good feeling in you, it takes practice, but I can really attest to how good it starts to feel when you are filling your body with good emotions. Sometimes we say, well, something on the outside has to happen before I'm allowed to feel that way. More and more, the research that is really looking into this whole the neuroscience, the relationship with the body, the emotions, is saying we can also cultivate elevated emotions. And sometimes it can start if you have a pet that you love, and the minute you think of that pet, you might notice that you have a good feeling in your heart. If you have children or others in your life that you love, or even a situation, you have a strong faith and thinking uh, of your of your faith, whatever it may be, we can consciously create those elevated emotions. And I would really encourage you to play with it and break that belief that, well, I have this issue. I have no business feeling good on the inside because I've got this problem. That was my inner script before. But now I'm saying, no, I can make it feel nice on the inside just by changing my thoughts and creating these elevated emotions. Excuse me, I have something in my eye. And then what happens when we do that with another person is you're more able to listen, to understand their reality, their inner world, right? But again, we're more focused today on your personal well-being as a manager, and these are ways that you start to look after yourself. Because as you start to pay attention to your sleep, you're more likely to be more rested. You're more likely to find it easier to bring people into focus, to bring up those elevated emotions, and to have the patience to really seek to understand. If you're getting energy from the food that you're getting, and your body, your metabolism is starting to, get um, uh, optimized, all of these things contribute. They're so interlinked. All right. So now this is a challenging one for most people because we have there is an art also in sharing and speaking what's called congruently. You will know often in communication, people will say one thing, but you have a sense something's off because it's what they're saying, how they're saying it, what their body's doing does not match. So being congruent, one with yourself, is to say, how am I? What's the most truthful thing for myself? Then you can make the right choices for yourself, which is being congruent. But then when you need to share with your team or with others, and you've got yourself in that place of presence, and you say, okay, I've created this open heartedness in myself, but I need to share something important. What is it you really want to say? Because if you're feeling cross and you just want to have a dig, please maybe do yourself and them a favor and don't say anything. But if it's about a change you need in a relationship, or you're noticing someone keeps coming late and you now need to raise that because it's affecting the team dynamic, or you need to give feedback in a way that needs to be um, uh, requesting something, or you need someone to know, maybe you need to go tell a senior person or a colleague what you need for things to be better for you. Ground rule one is be really clear what you want to say and your intention. But then sometimes I have, I'm now all clear and I just go in and do it without checking, is that person ready to hear me? And so, again, the more we're taking care of our well being, the more we'll also know, is my team member flooded? Is now the time to be giving them information when they've got that amount of little thinking space? Or do I need to do something to help them become balanced before we have that conversation? All right. And really, one of the things that we teach in our emotional intelligence programs is also, how can you take responsibility for what you communicate? Right? So you own it, you say, I feel, I think, I'd like you to know, so that you're saying it's me. You're not saying you made me feel because of you are upsetting the team. There are ways to say it that keeps someone's integrity intact and helps them also to change.